Ever heard of a Faustian bargain, deal with the devil, or having to pay the piper? These aren't just metaphors. Real men in history have been driven so mad over power, corruption, and greed that they signed away their souls in exchange for their desires. But are material objects, amazing talents, or supernatural powers really worth it? And is any of it true? I looked back into history once before to find real accounts of men who made deals with the devil, and the final list I came up with was shocking. Kings, occultists, desperate musicians, and even religious men have played chess with the devil and lost. Now I looked for more men who made deals with the devil in history, and all I can say is that you may have seen lists like this before, but I guarantee I found some of the strangest details you've never heard of, so keep watching. Be careful who you strike a deal with and what you offer up in the exchange. These are the stories of real men who met the devil. The Pied Piper was hired to rid the town of Hamlin of its rat infestation. Using his magical flute, he led the rodents out of the village. When it was time to pay up, though, the people changed their minds about paying him. But a deal's a deal, and the townspeople had no idea who they'd made a deal with. The Piper retaliated with a gruesome punishment. He played his magic flute for the children of the town and lured them out of the village as well. The children were never seen again. Maybe this historical story is telling us something. Does the devil try to trap us into making a deal with him? What happens when he offers up a reward you want so desperately you'd give anything to have it? Just take the musicians Paganini and Tartini. Were they mad geniuses? Were they possessed? Or were they granted fantastic skills by the devil? The violinist Niccolò Paganini had bizarrely long fingers, a gaunt, pale complexion, and flaming eyes. He actually scared people. That's because Paganini could reportedly play flawless notes on broken strings, he contorted his body into weird shapes while performing, and someone even saw an apparition of the devil with him on stage. People were super freaked out by how good he was and how bizarrely he performed on stage, but that wasn't all. They said it seemed like multiple people were playing at once when it was just him. On his deathbed, Paganini sent away priests wanting to perform last rites. So I guess he was dead set on bad choices, if he'd made any. There was a rumor that Paganini was also a womanizer and maybe even a serial killer. It was said that he butchered a woman, trapped her soul in his violin, and used her intestines in his violin strings. When he performed on stage, women's screams were supposedly heard coming from the violin. That's freaking freaky. Was it true, or just jealous rumors coming from a misunderstanding of musical genius? The composer and violinist Giuseppe Tartini, on the other hand, is best known for his Devil's Trill Sonata, with very difficult parts. And the source of inspiration for the song was allegedly the devil himself. Tartini had a dream where the devil appeared to him and asked him to be his teacher in exchange for his soul. The devil impressed Tartini so much with an indescribably beautiful violin performance that Tartini accepted his help and tried to recreate the music with the Devil's Trill Sonata. After that, Tartini continued with an impressive violin career, but he did die of gangrene, so maybe there was something black and rotting inside him that caused his demise. Speaking of dark things, I wanted to talk about someone whose reputation was also muddled with positive and negative opinions, and who still has a statue outside of Parliament today, Oliver Cromwell. What I learned might be the strongest corroborating proof of a deal with the devil I've ever seen. Oliver Cromwell was one of the most important figures of the British Isles in the 1600s. He wanted to overthrow the monarchy and ended up taking down King Charles I, who was beheaded. As his power grew, Cromwell spoke of being chosen to fight for God's will and that his actions were supported by God. But what if this God that he was talking about was actually just Lucifer?
Who's that? Ted. Who do you think it is?
On the eve of the Battle of Worcester, on September 3rd, 1651, Cromwell reportedly sold his soul to the devil. The next day, his forces destroyed the last major Scottish royalist army by attacking from 3 directions, and Cromwell died exactly 7 years later to the day on September 3rd, 1658. Was he a dictator, a military hero? People from Winston Churchill to Leon Trotsky to Thomas Carlyle to regular people have praised him and hated him. Maybe you've heard the phrase warts and all. That's because of Cromwell. He was covered in them. Remember in the last Deals with the Devil episode when we were talking about Faust who traveled with a dog familiar? I said that demon familiars have a strange way of surviving. Well, they're said to suck the blood from the wart of a witch, and these bumps can be physical clues of sin or karma. Now, you'd think some tales around a historical figure might just be unbelievable legends, like the story of Cromwell's death. He was suddenly hit with malaria and a kidney issue at the same time. And one ambassador who was there at the time wrote to the Doge of Venice about how suspicious it was how quickly Cromwell died from his illnesses. Was it because the devil had come to collect him? On Cromwell's final day, there was a terrible storm that rocked the nation, like Satan himself was walking the earth. But how do we know it really happened? Check this out. On September 3rd, 1658, a teenage boy used that storm to do scientific experiments. He would jump in the direction of the wind, then jump against it, and these particular winds, he told his friends, were a foot stronger than any other wind he'd measured. That teenage boy was none other than Isaac Newton. This speed of wind experiment set Newton up for a lifetime of research that would change the face of physics forever. I'd say that's pretty strong proof there was something weird in the air. Cromwell's body was actually dug up several years later in 1661 so they could give him an extra execution. His body was hanged, chained, thrown into a pit, his head was cut off and put on a pole outside of Westminster Hall in 1685. Then it was bought several times, then buried again.
He was poisoned, stabbed, shot, hung, stretched, disemboweled, drawn, and quartered. Ouch.
Some wonder if his body was used for occult rituals or why his personal items are venerated now. Weirdest of all, on Halloween in 1899, the Prime Minister Lord Rosebery gave a speech on Cromwell as they unveiled a statue of Cromwell outside the House of Parliament. Lord Rosebery was later revealed as the anonymous donor who paid for the statue, which, guys, honestly is really strange given his high status politically and that he was also connected to such powerful families. His own wife was the sole heir to the Rothschild family fortune. That's not weird at all. So what did Rosebery know? Why was Cromwell's head saved for so many years? Why was it so important that restoration work on the statue be completed in time for the 350th anniversary of Cromwell's death on September 3rd, 2008? And did beheading run in the family? Because Oliver Cromwell's ancestor, Thomas Cromwell, who was the minister of King Henry VIII, orchestrated the treasonous charges leveled at the king's wife, Anne Boleyn, who was then beheaded. Okay, so Anne Boleyn lost her head because of Thomas Cromwell. King Charles I lost his head because of Oliver Cromwell. Then Oliver Cromwell lost his own head after his painful-sounding death. Maybe it's all a sign not to lose our own heads and go crying to the devil to fix things when we're in a jam. Not making a deal with the devil is exactly what one monk should have done when he was given an impossible task: to write a book with all the knowledge of the world in one night. Legend goes that in the 13th century, a Benedictine monk in Bohemia was on the verge of a terrifying punishment. There are different versions of the legend, but they all start with how the monk had broken his vows and was to be sealed behind a wall. To bargain for his life, he made a deal with the bishop where he would create a book with all the knowledge of the world in one night. Sounds fair. If he succeeded, he would be released. If not, well, death. Behind the walls of his prison, he begged for an escape. That's when the devil himself appeared and offered to write the book for him in exchange for his soul. The very next day, the Codex Gigas was miraculously completed, the largest illuminated manuscript in the world to this day. The Devil's Bible, as it's called, is 36 inches long, 20 wide, and almost 9 inches thick. That's huge. It's fully color illustrated and handwritten, weighing 165 pounds. That's about as much as I weigh. It also has an illustration of the devil that some think was to thank the devil for his work, and others think that was drawn by the devil himself, like the rest of the book. Mysteriously, the book is now missing a number of pages that have been removed, but nobody knows who removed them or why they're missing. Who wrote the Codex Gigas in the first place? Was the devil really involved? The one thing we know for sure is that one scribe writing alone couldn't have completed this in one night, or even 1 year. Should have taken about 20. I can't tell you what I'd do if someone were literally closing in the walls around me, but I know everyone really feels like that sometimes, right? When we're in times of trouble or backed into a corner, are those events just a test to see whether we'll handle them right or with fear? Or if we have done bad things, are they opportunities to change? Either way, it's awfully tempting to take the easy way out, but as history has shown, You can't cheat the devil when you've signed away your soul. But what do you guys think? Have you heard other tales of men who met the devil and want us to do another episode on them? Want more info on occult, bizarre, and out-of-this-world encounters? Then I'm going to leave you with some of the best resources for even more interesting information. Check out the longer conversational episodes where the Metaphysical Podcast dived into the details of the Law of Attraction, Atlantis, Lemuria, and Mu, Saturn symbolism, and so much more. Also, if you like this type of content, please consider supporting my work by pledging on our website, themetaphysical.tv. With your support, we can give you more exclusive content and products. If you're into merch, check out the awesome t-shirts designed by yours truly by visiting the link in the description. Don't forget to like and subscribe to help the channel grow, and leave a comment because I love hearing from you guys. With that, I hope you thought this episode was out of this world.